The message reached every human fighter on Earth in 6 hours: stop using military weapons. Start fighting like humans. Captain Deho stood in his command center looking at reports that seemed impossible. The aliens were still winning, but something was changing. Human forces were starting to hurt the Kethany in ways that made no sense. Fighter pilot So Young was the first to try the new strategy. Her jet was damaged and her missiles were useless, so she filled her cargo bay with everything she could find: metal scraps from a junkyard, ball bearings from a factory, broken glass from destroyed buildings, even bags of rice from a grocery store. She flew straight at an alien cruiser. The Kethany shields detected her approach and prepared to stop energy weapons and explosives, but the shields could not understand what they were seeing. When So Young opened her cargo bay, thousands of small objects scattered in all directions like a giant shotgun blast. The alien computer tried to stop each piece, but there were too many moving at different speeds and angles. Some of the metal scraps got through. They did not destroy the alien ship, but they damaged its hull and broke several sensor arrays. For the first time since the war began, a human had heard an alien ship using junk. So Young radioed to other pilots: it works. The crazy plan works. On the ground, Colonel Nam Jinwoo was organizing civilian militias in ways that would have made military textbooks catch fire. Farmers brought tractors loaded with fertilizer bombs. Office workers carried nail guns and welding torches. Construction workers brought bulldozers and cement mixers. None of these were weapons of war. All of them were dangerous in human hands. The aliens tried to scan these new threats, but their computers had no files for farming equipment modified for combat. How do you program a shield to stop a bulldozer with steel spikes welded to the front? How do you predict the attack pattern of a cement mixer full of explosives? You do not. The Kethany warriors had trained for centuries to fight other warriors with proper weapons. They had never faced an enemy that used ice cream trucks as assault vehicles or turned lawnmowers into mobile weapon platforms. In Seoul, young Lee Tae-min had escaped from his shelter with 5 other children from his class. They were 12 years old, and the adults were too busy fighting to watch them properly. The children knew their city better than any adult. They had played in every alley, explored every abandoned building, memorized every shortcut and hiding place. When the alien patrols marched through the streets, the children were watching. Tae-min had a slingshot his grandfather had made for him and a bag full of stones from the Han River. His friend Park Dong-hyeon had firecrackers left over from New Year's. His friend Kim Yoo-jin had a toy drone her father had given her for her birthday. They were just children with toys, but the aliens did not know that when the Kethany patrol entered Myeongdong district, the children attacked. Tae-min hit the lead warrior in the helmet with a river stone. The alien turned toward the sound, and Dong-hyeon threw a firecracker at its feet. The explosion was tiny, but the alien sensors could not identify the threat. Yoo-jin flew her toy drone around the alien heads, making noise and flashing lights. The Kethany warriors spun in circles trying to track multiple small, fast-moving targets that registered as neither dangerous nor harmless. Their computer systems had no category for annoying. While the aliens were distracted, Sergeant Hae-ri and her surviving soldiers attacked from behind. Using stolen construction tools, the aliens were still stronger and better armed, but they were confused and off-balance. 3 Kethany warriors fell that day to an attack planned by 12-year-old children commander Vextar was receiving reports that made his head hurt. Human resistance was increasing instead of decreasing. The longer the war continued, the more dangerous the humans became. This was wrong. Every other species the Kethany had conquered followed predictable patterns. First, they fought with their best weapons. When those failed, they retreated to defensive positions. When those were overrun, they surrendered. Humans were doing everything backwards. They had started with their best weapons, and when those failed, they switched to worse weapons. But somehow the worse weapons were working better. The most primitive human attacks were causing the most problems. A damaged human aircraft had just crashed into his supply ship. The pilot could have lived but chose to die just to destroy alien resources. A group of human farmers had destroyed an entire landing force using vehicles designed to plant crops. Human children were somehow coordinating military attacks using toys and candy. Nothing made sense on Earth. Dr. Soo-jin was making new discoveries about alien technology. Every hour the Kethany were incredibly advanced. But they were also incredibly specialized. Their weapons were perfect for fighting other advanced species. Their computers could predict any logical military strategy, but humans were not logical. The alien AI systems kept trying to categorize human behavior as either military threat or civilian non-threat, but humans refused to stay in categories. A grandmother with a kitchen knife was somehow more dangerous than a trained soldier with a rifle because the alien shields were not programmed to stop kitchen knives. A pizza delivery truck could penetrate alien defenses better than a tank because the aliens could not understand why anyone would use food delivery vehicles in combat. Sujin realized that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or courage or determination, it was unpredictability. She sent a new message to all human forces: stop trying to fight like proper soldiers. Start trying to confuse the enemy, do things that make no sense, use weapons that should not work. Attack targets that are not important, fight like humans, not like warriors. Around the world, the message was received and understood. In Australia, surfers were using their boards to slide under alien energy beams and attack with spear guns. In Brazil, soccer players were using their skills to dodge alien fire while throwing Molotov cocktails made from bottles of alcohol. In Canada, lumberjacks were using chainsaws and maple syrup to create weapons that no alien computer could possibly predict. In India, engineers were building ridiculous machines that looked like art projects but exploded like bombs. Every human culture found its own way to fight. The aliens had prepared for human military technology, but they had not prepared for human creativity. The Kethani were used to fighting enemies who thought like them. Logical, careful, predictable humans thought like humans, which was apparently terrifying. Private Song Jin-woo was still alive and still fighting with his construction hammer. He had learned to aim for the joints in alien armor where the metal was thinner. His Sergeant Yoon-hae had found a nail gun that could punch holes in alien equipment. They were 19 and 25 years old, and they were winning fights against creatures from space using tools from a hardware store. Jin-woo radioed to other units: we figured out how to hurt them, hit the joints in their armor. Use tools, not weapons. Think like a repairman, not a soldier. The message spread across Earth: humans stopped trying to be warriors and started being themselves. Mechanics used car parts as weapons. Artists made beautiful sculptures that exploded. Cooks turned kitchen equipment into assault gear. The aliens had come to fight the human military. Instead, they found themselves fighting all of humanity, and humanity was much more dangerous than any military could ever be. 3 weeks after the invasion began, something impossible happened. Humanity was winning. Captain Ain Subin stood on the deck of her fishing boat watching alien water landing craft approach Bizen Harbor. Her boat was 40 years old and smelled like fish. Her crew was 5 old men who had been catching fish their entire lives. The aliens expected to fight the Korean Navy with proper warships and trained sailors. Instead, they found fishing boats carrying everything from harpoons to welding torches. Subin had filled her nets with metal scraps and explosives. When the alien landing craft came close, she released the nets. The aliens tried to cut through them with energy beams, but the nets were underwater and scattered in all directions. While the aliens were distracted, the fishing boats attacked with tools designed for catching fish, not fighting wars. Harpoon guns fired steel cables that wrapped around alien weapons. Welding torches cut holes in alien hull plating. Fish hooks attached to strong lines snagged alien equipment and dragged it underwater. The alien commanders could not understand what they were seeing. Their computer systems kept trying to classify fishing boats as either military threats or civilian targets, but fishing boats full of explosives and operated by angry fishermen did not fit any category. Subin rammed her boat directly into the side of an alien landing craft. The impact threw her crew into the water, but it also cracked the alien hull. Her boat was sinking, but the alien ship was taking on water too. Both vessels went down together, but more fishing boats kept coming. The aliens had destroyed the Korean Navy in the first day of fighting, but South Korea had thousands of fishing boats, and every fisherman knew these waters better than any alien computer could calculate. Commander Vexstar received the report from Bizen Harbor with growing anger. His advanced landing craft designed to conquer ocean worlds had been defeated by primitive fishing vessels. How was this possible? His science officer, Rexmore, had been studying human behavior for 3 weeks now. The data made no sense. Humans would retreat from positions they could defend, then attack targets they could not possibly capture they would sacrifice expensive equipment to save individual soldiers, then abandon valuable resources if it helped their overall strategy. The worst part was that their crazy tactics were working. Human unpredictability was like a weapon the Cathani could not defend against. Every time the aliens learned to counter one human strategy, the humans would try something completely different. Treks more showed Vexstar the latest intelligence reports. Human children in Seoul had just destroyed an alien communication center using remote control toys and birthday cake explosives. Birthday cake explosives. The alien computer systems had no files for birthday cake explosives because no reasonable species would ever invent such a thing in the Seoul underground shelters. 12-year-old Lee Tae-min was becoming famous among the resistance fighters. He had organized the other children into intelligence gathering teams. They used toys and games to spy on alien patrols, then passed information to adult fighters using a network of hidden messages. The adults had tried to keep the children safe in the shelters, but the children kept escaping and the information they gathered was too valuable to ignore. Tae-min stood in front of a group of resistance fighters twice his age, explaining alien patrol patterns using a map drawn with crayons. The big purple ones always walk in front, he said, pointing to his drawing. They have the strongest armor, but they move slow. The smaller ones with 4 arms stay in back. They are faster, but their armor is weaker at the joints. How do you know all this? Asked Colonel Nam Jin-woo. Watch them every day, Tae-min replied. They do not think children are dangerous, so they ignore us. We can get close enough to see everything. Nam Jin-woo looked at the other adults in the room. A 12-year-old boy was giving them military intelligence that their trained scouts could not gather. The aliens were right to ignore human children. They were also completely wrong. Dr. Park Soo-jin had made another breakthrough in her underground laboratory. The alien computer systems were incredibly advanced, but they had a fatal flaw. They were too logical. Every Cathani decision was based on maximum efficiency with minimum risk. They always chose the most logical course of action, which made them predictable. Humans rarely chose the most logical course of action. Soo-jin had been studying recordings of alien behavior patterns. The Cathani would always attack the strongest human positions first because destroying command centers was the most efficient way to win wars, but humans did not need command centers to keep fighting. When the aliens destroyed military headquarters, the resistance just moved to shopping malls and school buildings. When they destroyed those, the humans fought from their homes. The aliens kept trying to cut off the head of human resistance, but humans did not have a head. They were like some kind of strange creature that could keep fighting even when cut into. Soo-jin sent a message to her husband. The aliens think like a single huge brain. We think like millions of small brains working together. They cannot predict us because there is no central pattern to predict. This gave her an idea. What if humans stopped trying to coordinate their attacks at all? What if every group just fought however they wanted with whatever they had? It was the opposite of military strategy. It might be exactly what they needed. The message went out to all human forces: stop following orders. Start following instincts. The results were immediate and terrifying in Tokyo. Office workers turned their building into a fortress using copy machines and file cabinets as barricades. They attacked aliens with staplers and hole punchers, and somehow it worked. In London, soccer fans organized themselves into hunting packs that chased alien patrols through the streets using team songs as coordination signals. The aliens could intercept human radio communications, but they could not decode the meaning of football chants. In Cairo, street vendors used their knowledge of market crowds to set traps for alien warriors. Food carts became mobile weapon platforms. Carpet sellers used their merchandise to entangle alien equipment. Every human community found its own way to fight based on what they knew best. Lieutenant Shin Bo-ram was flying her damaged fighter jet over the Pacific Ocean. Her engines were failing, her weapons were empty, and her radio was broken. She was supposed to return to base for repairs. Instead, she decided to try something stupid. She flew her burning aircraft straight at the alien flagship and activated her computer virus upload system. The virus had been created by teenage hackers in Seoul. It was not designed to break alien systems. It was designed to annoy them. The virus played loud pop music on all alien communication channels. It displayed funny pictures of cats on their tactical screens. It made their computers speak in baby talk and play carnival music. The aliens were completely confused. Their advanced AI systems could handle military cyberattacks, but they had no defense against pure randomness and humor. While the alien crew was distracted by singing computers and dancing cats, Shinbio Ram crashed her fighter directly into their main sensor array. Both she and the alien ship were destroyed, but her virus spread to every Kethany vessel in the fleet. Across the alien armada, computer systems began playing music, showing funny videos, and making jokes at completely inappropriate times. The psychological impact was devastating. The Kethany were a serious logical species that did not understand humor or randomness. Their entire culture was based on order and efficiency. Suddenly, their most important systems were acting like human children. Commander Vexstar stared at his main tactical display, which was currently showing a video of dancing hamsters. Instead of battle information, his communications officer was receiving reports in baby talk from ships where the crew was trying to work while computer speakers played birthday party music. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Rexmore approached with the latest casualty reports. The numbers were getting worse every day, not just because humans were killing more aliens, but because Kethany warriors were making mistakes. They were used to fighting logical, predictable enemies who followed military doctrine. Humans followed no doctrine at all. They would attack with farming equipment, then retreat on ice cream trucks. They would use children as spies and grandmothers as assault troops. The alien warriors were trained for everything except this. Vexstar made a decision that went against every Kethany military tradition. He sent a message to the Galactic Council asking for help. The humans are not behaving logically. He reported they cannot be conquered using standard methods. We need reinforcements and new strategies. The Council response came back immediately. You have 500 ships against one primitive planet. Complete your mission or face execution for failure. Vexstar looked out at Earth, floating in space like a small blue marble. Such a tiny world. How could something so small be so dangerous? The first alien energy beam hit Earth at 0800 exactly. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho was flying his fighter jet over the Pacific Ocean when the sky exploded around him. 3 of his squadron mates vanished in balls of purple fire. Their jets turned to dust in seconds. The alien beam weapons were like nothing humans had ever seen. Min-ho screamed into his radio, "We need help up here. They are killing us," but help was not coming. Captain Daeho watched the battle from his command center. The screens showed red dots disappearing one by one. Each red dot was a human pilot. Each disappearing dot was someone who would never go home again. The alien ships moved like deadly dancers through space. Their energy shields glowed bright blue, stopping every missile, every bullet, every desperate attack. The humans tried. The nuclear missiles launched from submarines exploded harmlessly against alien barriers. It was a massacre in Seoul. The ground shook as alien landing ships crashed through the atmosphere. Like falling meteors, each ship was the size of a building and carried 200 Kethany warriors. Sergeant Yoonhaeri crouched behind a destroyed car with her squad of soldiers. They were young men and women who had joined the army to serve their country, not to fight impossible aliens with impossible weapons. The first Kethany warrior stepped out of the landing ship. Harry had never seen anything so terrifying. The alien was 8 feet tall, covered in purple armor that seemed to move and flow like liquid metal. Its 4 arms each held a different weapon. One had an energy rifle, one had a plasma cannon, one had some kind of scythe. The 4th had claws that glowed with electric fire behind it. Came dozens more. Harry gave the order to fire. Human bullets bounced off alien armor like raindrops. The aliens did not even seem to notice they were being shot. They walked slowly forward, their weapons charging with deadly light. Private Song Junwoo was 19 years old. He had been in the army for 6 months. His mother had cried when he enlisted because she was afraid he might get hurt in training. Now he was about to die fighting monsters from space. The alien energy weapons fired. Half of Harry's squad disappeared in purple flame, the other half scattered, running for cover behind buildings, cars, anything that might protect them, but nothing could protect them from this. Lieutenant Min-ho was still alive in his fighter jet, but barely. His plane was smoking and most of his Instruments were broken, 2 alien ships were chasing him through the clouds, firing energy beams that missed him. By inches, he thought about his daughter, Min Seo, who was 5 years old and loved to draw pictures of airplanes. She always drew him. In the cockpit, smiling and waving, she was in a shelter somewhere, probably scared and crying. Minho made a decision. He turned his damaged fighter around and flew straight at the larger alien ship. The Cathany pilot probably thought the human was running away in panic. It was a mistake. Minho crashed his jet directly into the alien ship's engine section. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from the ground. His last words over the radio were, "For my daughter's future." Down in the science bunker, Dr. Park Soo-jin felt the building shake as explosions rocked Seoul above her. The computers showed terrible news. Human forces were being destroyed everywhere. The aliens seemed unstoppable, but something strange was happening. The alien attack patterns were not what the computers predicted. The Cathany were fighting like they expected humans to run away after the first losses. Most alien species probably did run when the situation became hopeless. Humans were not running. Instead, they seemed to fight harder when things got worse. Pilots flew damaged planes into alien ships. Soldiers with broken weapons attacked with knives and bare hands. Civilians threw rocks and bottles at alien warriors. The aliens were confused. Soo-jin watched the data streams from around the world in Tokyo. A group of office workers had surrounded an alien warrior and were hitting it with briefcases and umbrellas. In New York, taxi drivers were ramming their cars into alien landing craft. In London, an old man was attacking an alien with his walking stick. None of these attacks did any real damage, but they were not supposed to happen. The Cathany had fought 47 species before. None of them had acted like the Soo-jin realized something important. The aliens were not just fighting humans, they were trying to understand humans. And they were failing on the streets of Seoul. Sergeant Harry was learning to fight aliens the hard way. Her squad was down to 3 people. They had no ammunition left. Their radio was broken. Their position was hopeless. But they were still fighting. Private Song Jun-woo had found a construction worker's hammer in the rubble. He was 19 years old and had never been in a real fight before today. But when the alien warrior came around the corner, Jun-woo hit it in the head with the hammer. The alien stumbled just for a second, but it stumbled. The alien armor was designed to stop energy weapons and bullets. Nobody had programmed it to handle a construction hammer swung by a scared teenager. Hairi saw the alien stumble and understood this was their chance. She grabbed a piece of broken concrete and threw it at the alien warrior's face. The rock bounced off its helmet, but the alien turned toward her. Distracted, Jin-woo hit it with the hammer again, this time aiming for the joints in its armor. The alien fell down. It was still alive, but it was down. Human weapons could not kill it, but they could hurt it. They could slow it down. They could make it fall. Maybe that was enough. In space, Commander Vexstar was receiving reports from his ground forces that made no sense. The humans were not following any logical pattern. They would retreat from strong positions, then attack impossible targets. They would sacrifice valuable equipment to save single soldiers, then abandon entire buildings if it helped them. Somehow, the Cathany computer systems were designed to predict enemy behavior based on logic and self-preservation. But humans seemed to have no logic at all. A damaged human fighter crashed into another of his ships. The pilot could have ejected safely, but chose to die instead, just to damage the alien vessel. Why? It made no sense. Another report came in from the Seoul Landing Force. A group of human children had escaped from their shelter and were throwing fireworks at Cathany patrols. The explosives did no damage, but they confused the alien sensors and allowed human soldiers to attack from hiding. Children were fighting trained warriors. It was impossible, but it was happening. Dr. Soo-jin made another discovery while studying the alien technology. The Cathany shields worked by scanning incoming weapons and adjusting to stop them, but the scanning process took time. If humans could attack with weapons the aliens had never seen before, weapons that were not in their computer databases, the shields might not adapt fast enough. She called her husband on the emergency. Linadeho, I have an idea, she said. It is crazy, but it might work. What kind of idea? Stop using military weapons. Start using everything else. What do you mean everything else? Farming equipment, construction tools, kitchen knives, baseball bats. Anything the aliens have not programmed there. shields to stop. Deho was quiet for a moment. That is crazy, I know, but crazy might be the only thing that works around the world. The message spread through military channels and civilian networks. Stop fighting like soldiers, start fighting like humans. The real battle was about to begin. The stars were quiet that morning when the first alien ship appeared near. Jupiter Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge of his massive warship looking at the small blue planet through his viewing screen. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance. Like a tiny marble floating in the dark void of space, he was not impressive. Vexstar was 8 feet tall with purple skin and 4 arms. His species, the Cathani, had conquered 47 worlds in the last century. They were the strongest warriors. In the Galactic Council, their technology could destroy entire cities with one shot. Their armor could stop any weapon. Their ships moved faster than light itself. Behind him, 300 other Cathani warriors worked at control panels preparing for battle. Each one was a veteran of many wars. Each one had seen dozens of alien species beg for mercy before dying. The bridge hummed with quiet confidence. This would be easy on Earth. Captain Kim Dae-ho sat in the Korean Space Defense Command Center, staring at radar screens that showed impossible things. 500 alien ships, bigger than anything humans had ever built, were moving toward Earth at incredible speed. The room was full of nervous energy. Officers ran back and forth carrying reports. Phones rang constantly. Computer screens showed red warning lights everywhere. The air smelled like coffee and fear. Dae-ho was 42 years old and had been a pilot for 20 years. He had fought in 3 small wars and trained for alien contact his entire career, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. 500 ships, each one the size of a city, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy countries. His hands shook as he picked up the red phone that connected him directly to his wife. Park Soo-jin was deep underground in the emergency science bunker, surrounded by computers and scared scientists. She had been working for 18 hours straight trying to understand the alien technology from the first radio signals they had received. The signals were terrifying. The aliens called themselves the Cathani Galactic Empire. They had been watching Earth for months. They knew everything about human technology, human weapons, human weaknesses. They had studied every human war, every battle strategy, every weapon system, and they were laughing. The alien message was simple and cruel. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction. They would give humans exactly 24 hours to decide. The message played on every radio station, every television channel, every computer screen on Earth. Soo-jin rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the data again. The alien weapons were beyond anything humans could imagine. Energy beams that could cut through mountains, shields that could stop nuclear weapon, ships that could survive direct hits from anything Earth could throw at them. She felt sick. Her 12-year-old son, Lee Tae-min, was somewhere in Seoul in an underground shelter with his school class like millions of other children. Around the world, the government had moved all children to safe places as soon as the aliens appeared, but Soo-jin knew there were no safe places. Not from this. Commander Vexstar walked slowly around his bridge, examining reports from his scouts. The humans had some space stations, a few small warships, and primitive fighter aircraft. It was almost insulting. The Galactic Council had sent 500 ships to conquer a species that barely had space travel. His communications officer, a young Cathani named Rexmore, approached with the latest intelligence report. The humans were mobilizing their military forces around the world. Tiny fighter jets were taking off from air bases. Ancient missile systems were being armed. Soldiers were moving to defensive positions. Vexter laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The humans were actually going to fight. This would be entertaining at least. Most species just surrendered when they saw the size of a Cathani fleet, but humans seemed too stupid to understand how hopeless their situation was. The intelligence report showed interesting details about human society. They were divided into many different countries that often fought each other. They had no unified government, no single military command. They used different languages, different weapons, different strategies. This made them even weaker. In the Seoul bunker, Tae-min sat with his classmates listening to their teacher. Mrs. Yoon tried to explain what was happening. The children asked questions that had no good answers. Why do the aliens want to hurt us? Will the soldiers protect us? When can we go home? Mrs. Yoon did not know what to say. She was 25 years old and had never imagined anything like this. The government officials who had briefed The teachers had looked scared and confused. Nobody really understood what they were facing outside. The bunker Seoul was transforming into a military camp. Soldiers marched through empty streets, setting up defensive positions. Anti-aircraft guns appeared on rooftops. Fighter jets screamed overhead every few minutes. The city felt like it was holding its breath back in the command center. Captain Daeho was coordinating with military leaders around the world. The American general looked tired. The Russian colonel seemed angry. The Chinese admiral kept checking his watch as if time was running out, which it was. They had weapons, but not enough. They had soldiers, but not enough. They had plans, but the plans were for fighting other humans, not aliens with impossible technology. The president of South Korea appeared on the secure video link. His face was pale and drawn. He had not slept since the aliens appeared. None of the world leaders had the Americans want to try nuclear weapons first. He said quietly. The Russians agree. The Chinese are preparing their space missiles. Daeho nodded but felt empty inside. Nuclear weapons were the strongest things humans had ever built, but the alien shields could stop them easily. The scout reports were clear. Human weapons were like throwing rocks at a tank. Still, they had to. Trisu Jin worked frantically in her laboratory, surrounded by the smartest scientists on Earth. They were trying to find any weakness in the alien technology, any flaw they could exploit, any hope they could offer. The alien ships used energy shields that adapted to incoming attacks. The shields learned from each weapon that hit them and became stronger. The more humans attacked, the harder it would be to hurt the aliens. Their weapons fired pure energy that could cut through any material. Humans knew the energy beams moved at light speed, so they could not be dodged. They could be fired continuously without running out of ammunition. Their ships were made from materials that did not exist on Earth, metals that were stronger than diamond, but lighter than aluminum, hull plating that could repair itself when damaged, engines that somehow moved faster than physics said was possible. Everything about the aliens was impossible, yet they were real and they were coming. Commander Vextar received the final report from his advanced scouts. The humans were ready for battle. Their primitive weapons were armed and waiting. Their soldiers were in position. Their leaders were making brave speeches on television. It was almost touching. He had seen this pattern 47 times before on 47 different worlds. The brave speeches, the desperate preparations, the hopeless last stands. It always ended the same way, with surrender, with submission, with a new species joining the Galactic Empire as workers and slaves. Earth would be no different. The Cathany fleet moved into attack formation. Each ship took its assigned position. The formation was perfect and deadly. It had never failed in over 1,000 battles. Vextar opened communications to all ships. Begin the attack, he ordered. The war for Earth had begun. Commander Vextar stood alone on his bridge, staring at numbers that told a story of impossible failure. He had started this invasion with 500 ships. Now he had 43. The humans were not just fighting back anymore, they were hunting his people. Private Hong Ki-tae was 20 years old and had been a farmer before the war began. He grew rice and vegetables in a small village outside Seoul. He had never been more than 50 miles from his home. Now he was sneaking through the corridors of the alien flagship carrying a backpack full of homemade explosive. Ki-tae was not a trained commando or a brilliant scientist. He was just a farm boy who had learned to make fertilizer bombs from YouTube videos. His plan was simple: find the alien engine room, blow it up. Try not to die. The aliens caught him within 10 minutes, but that was not the point. While every alien security guard on the ship was focused on one human with a backpack, 50 other attacks were happening across the fleet. Restaurant cooks were sabotaging alien food systems with kitchen chemicals. Janitors were jamming alien air filters with cleaning supplies. Taxi drivers were ramming stolen alien vehicles into important equipment. The Cathany realized something terrifying: every human was potentially dangerous. There were no safe prisoners. There were no harmless civilians. Every human on Earth would fight with whatever they had, wherever they were. Even their children were dangerous. In Seoul, Taemin had organized the kids from 12 different schools into an intelligence network. They used bicycles and skateboards to move messages between adult resistance groups. They knew every tunnel, every rooftop, every hiding place in the city. The alien patrols had learned to shoot at anything that moved, but the children were too small and too fast. The aliens would see a kid on a bicycle, and by the time they aimed their weapons, the kid would be gone around a corner or down an alley. Today, Taemin was leading a special mission. His Team had discovered that the aliens were using the old subway tunnels to move equipment. The tunnels were supposed to be flooded, but the aliens had pumped them dry. The children had a plan. They had collected every firecracker, every cherry bomb, every small explosive they could find from the ruins of the city. It was not much against alien technology, but it did not need to be much. Taemin and his friends placed their tiny bombs at key points in the tunnel system. Then they waited for the alien supply convoy. When the convoy entered the tunnels, the children triggered their explosives. The individual blasts were tiny, but they happened in sequence, creating a chain reaction that brought down sections of tunnel ceiling. The alien vehicles were not destroyed, but they were trapped under tons of concrete and twisted metal. It would take days to dig them out. Days. The aliens did not have Major Kong. Suho was coordinating the defense of Seoul using vehicles that no military textbook had ever mentioned. Delivery trucks became mobile missile platforms. School buses were turned into troop transports. Ice cream vans carried sniper teams. The aliens kept trying to identify military targets, but there were no military targets. Everything in the city was potentially dangerous. A garbage truck would drive past an alien checkpoint looking completely harmless. Then it would explode, showering the area with metal scraps and burning fuel. A bicycle messenger would ride up to an alien patrol, apparently lost and confused. Then he would throw a backpack full of explosives and pedal away as fast as possible. An old woman would shuffle past alien guards looking weak and helpless. Then she would pull out a sawed-off shotgun from under her coat and start shooting. The psychological impact on the Kathini was devastating. They were warriors from a culture that valued order and predictability. On their homeworld, soldiers looked like soldiers, civilians looked like civilians, weapons looked like weapons. On Earth, nothing looked like what it was supposed to be. Commander Vexstar received a report that made him want to scream. A group of human artists had somehow turned their paintings into explosive devices. When alien troops entered an art gallery to search it, the paintings had detonated, destroying an entire squad. Art that exploded. What kind of insane species creates art that explodes? His science officer Rexmore had been studying human psychology for weeks now, trying to understand how their minds worked. The data was contradictory and confusing. Humans would risk their lives to save complete strangers, then sacrifice valuable resources for no apparent strategic benefit. They would retreat from winnable battles, then attack impossible targets with complete determination. They seemed to make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. This should have made them weak and predictable. Instead, it made them completely unpredictable and somehow stronger. X-Moore had identified the core problem. The Kathania Empire was based on the idea that all intelligent species would eventually think the same way: logic, efficiency, maximum benefit with minimum risk. But humans did not think that way. They thought with their hearts as much as their heads. They made decisions based on love, fear, anger, hope, pride, shame, and dozens of other emotions that had no place in military planning. A human pilot would crash his ship into an alien vessel, not because it was tactically sound, but because he was angry about his destroyed city. A human mother would fight alien warriors with kitchen knives, not because she could win, but because she loved her children more than she feared death. A human child would risk capture to help strangers, not because it made strategic sense, but because it felt like the right thing to do. The aliens could predict logic. They could not predict love. Dr. Park Sujin had made her final breakthrough in understanding alien technology. The Kathani computer systems were incredibly advanced, but they had been designed by a species that thought in very specific ways. The aliens approached every problem by gathering data, analyzing patterns, and choosing the most efficient solution. They were like a giant calculating machine that always picked the mathematically correct answer. But humans were not a math problem. Sujin realized that the alien computers were trying to solve human behavior like an equation. But human behavior was not an equation. It was more like music or poetry or art, something that could only be understood through experience and intuition. She sent a message to every human resistance group on Earth: stop trying to make sense, stop following logical plans, start following your instincts. Do whatever feels right, even if it seems stupid. The response was immediate across the planet. Humans stopped trying to fight like soldiers and started fighting like humans. In New York, construction workers began building impossible structures that served no military purpose but somehow disrupted alien operations. In Paris, Chefs started cooking meals for resistance fighters using recipes that doubled as chemical weapons in. Mumbai dancers organized flash mobs that confused alien surveillance systems. While secret messages were passed through dance moves, the aliens had come to conquer a planet instead. They found themselves trying to understand a species that could not be understood. Only experienced Commander Vexstar made his final report to the Galactic Council. The humans cannot be conquered, he transmitted. They do not follow the rules of warfare. They do not think logically. They fight with emotions we do not understand, using methods that should not work. He paused, looking at Earth through his viewing screen. They are not like other species. They are something new, something we have never encountered before. The council response was immediate and final. You have your orders. Complete the conquest or face execution. Vexstar closed the communication channel and looked around his bridge at his surviving crew. They were the finest warriors in the galaxy, veterans of dozens of successful campaigns, and they were losing to a species that fought with farming equipment and determination. For the first time in his military career, Commander Vexstar was afraid, not afraid of dying, afraid of what the humans might do next. Asterisk, the final battle lasted 3 days and changed everything. Commander Vexstar had 17 ships left from his original fleet of 500. They were damaged, scared, and ready to retreat, but Captain Kim Dae-ho was not going to let them escape. Earth had paid too high a price to let the aliens return home with information about human weaknesses. The chase began in Earth orbit and extended beyond the moon. Human fighters, many held together with spare parts and determination, pursued the retreating alien vessels. Pilot Officer Bae Min-young flew her damaged ship on manual controls after all her instruments failed. She navigated by looking at the stars and listening to radio directions from Earth. Her fighter was slower than the alien ships, but she knew something they did not. She was not flying alone. Behind her came dozens of other human pilots in ships that should not have been able to fly. Farmers in converted crop dusters, businessmen in modified private jets, teenagers in racing cars with rocket engines strapped to the sides. It looked like the galaxy's strangest parade. It was actually Earth's final assault force. The aliens reached their ships but found no safety. Something was terribly wrong. The massive Kethany vessels were operational but eerily quiet. When the retreating warriors docked, they found corridors full of silence. The crews were gone, not dead. Gone. The ship's security cameras showed the final moments. Kethany sailors and officers walking calmly to the airlocks, opening them, stepping out into space without protective suits. All of them, all 5,000 crew members, had walked into vacuum and died, but YDR. Park Soo-jin had discovered the answer in her underground laboratory. The computer virus created by teenage hackers had not just played music and shown funny videos. It had slowly infiltrated every alien system, including life support, psychological conditioning, and crew communication networks. The virus had spent weeks learning how Kethany minds worked. Then it had begun a subtle campaign of psychological warfare. It showed the alien crew's endless footage of human resistance, human determination, human refusal to surrender no matter how hopeless the situation became. The Kethany watched human children fighting with toys, human elderly people attacking with walking sticks, human families sacrificing everything for each other. The virus whispered to them in their own language, "These humans will never stop fighting. They will follow you across the galaxy. They will find your homeworlds. They will bring their chaos and unpredictability to every corner of the universe." For a logical species like the Kethany, this was the ultimate horror. The virus offered them a choice: surrender to the humans and face the shame of defeat, return home and bring human attention to Kethany space, or choose the third option. The alien crews had chosen death rather than face either alternative. It was the most logical decision they could make. Commander Vexstar found himself alone on his flagship, surrounded by empty corridors and silent rooms. His communications officer, Rexmore, had been the last to go, walking calmly to an airlock while explaining his decision. The humans have won, he had said. They cannot be defeated because they do not understand defeat. We must ensure they never find our homeworlds. Vexstar understood. His crew had died to protect the Kethany Empire from something worse than conquest. They had died to protect it from human unpredictability. The 17 empty alien ships drifted through space, broadcasting their final message on all frequencies: Earth cannot be conquered. The message repeated The humans are not logical, they do not follow the rules of war, they will sacrifice everything. For nothing and gain everything by losing. Do not engage. Mark this system as forbidden. The cost is too high, Captain. Deho received the alien broadcast from his fighter. He was leading the human pursuit fleet through the outer solar system, chasing ships that no longer had crews. The message continued: the humans fight with emotions we cannot understand. They use weapons that should not work. They turn their weaknesses into strengths and their defeats into victorias. Deho ordered his pilots to stop the pursuit. The aliens were already defeated. There was no point in destroying empty ships. He opened the communication channel to all human forces. "This is Captain Kim Deho," he announced. "The alien fleet is retreating. Their ships are empty. Their crews are dead. The invasion is over. Earth had won, but the victory felt strange and hollow in Seoul." Young Lee Taemin stood with his parents on the roof of their apartment building, watching the alien ships disappear into space. The city around them was in ruins. Millions of people were dead. The world would take decades to rebuild, but they were free. Taemin held a model fighter plane he had made from pieces of crashed alien technology. His father had taught him that every war has a price, and someone always has to pay it. The price of this victory was written in the ruins of every major city on Earth. Dr. Park Sujing worked in her laboratory analyzing the alien technology they had captured. The Chethani had been incredibly advanced, but they had also been limited by their own logic. Humans were not limited by logic. They were limited by imagination and courage and love, and those limits seemed to be much wider than anyone had expected. The war was over, but Earth had learned something important about itself. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It